Hey everyone, welcome to the Doctors and Dollars podcast. My guest today is Dr. Timothy McKnight. Dr. McKnight is an accomplished and agile medical and healthcare executive with deep expertise as a hospitalist, a physician champion, and administrator to improve patient care, medical outcomes, and operational efficiencies while promoting diversity and inclusion in the medical profession. A graduate of Brown University and Tufts University, he is currently the executive director of the Pathway to Medicine for Minority Students at Cleveland State University. There, he leads the pre-medical program for underrepresented minority students. He's focused on preparing underrepresented and underserved minority students for acceptance into medical school and instilling a commitment to giving back to underserved minority communities as a means to enrich the health and heritage of underserved minorities in Northeast Ohio. Thank you for being here with me today, Dr. McKnight. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, Nate. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. Well, let's start off. I always like to start off. What's going well today for you?
Well, I'm having a good day. I had a presentation for students on campus on basically the nuts and bolts of getting into medical school. So I spoke with the AMSA group, American Medical Association student group, on how to get into medical school and some of the challenges thereof. So they enjoyed the presentation. Yeah.
Well, challenges. Isn't getting into medical school really easy?
I wish. Oh my God. Up to 60% will not get in. Okay. And
Unbelievable.
so most established medical schools get 5,000 to 7,000 applications per year for a class size that typically is between 120 to 200 students. So it's a terribly, terribly challenging process to go through. And that's why pathways like mine here at Cleveland State University are so important to really level the playing field for all those who are coming from a non-traditional background.
Awesome. And you've dedicated the latter part of your career to this, which I think is super admirable. We're going to talk about today. We're going to dive into several topics. The first one that I want to talk about, though, is the struggle that you just talked about. So, I mean, I joke getting into medical school is easy. We know it's not. If it was super easy, we would have a billion doctors out there, right? Just the way people look at doctors as, oh, they make so much income and that, they have a great lifestyle and everything, but the work is hard. Not only is the work hard when you're a doctor, but the work is hard to get into medical school. So tell me about some of the struggles that the traditional student that wants to get into medical schools, some of the struggles that they're facing today.
Well, it's very, very challenging. As I said, the odds are stacked against you. And if I told you the average age for applying or getting into medical school in the United States was 27 years of age, you probably would be surprised. Okay.
Very, very.
So what students are doing is that they're taking several gap years to strengthen their resumes. So they're getting a master's degree in a healthcare related field. They're doing research where they can become like a research associate on a project where they might get published. Or they're doing job shadowing, right? Things of that nature to strengthen their resume because the odds are very, very long here. Okay. And when you talk about underrepresented minorities in terms of their track to get into medical school, it's very hard because everyone's coming from such challenging backgrounds. So the Pathways to Practice program here at Cleveland State, we honor students that come from those tough backgrounds that I speak of, such as low-income families or a under-resourced school district, a graduate of the foster care system, a veteran, for instance, right? And obviously coming from some of these challenging minority neighborhoods that they may grow up in. So it's very tough. My father grew up in Harlem, okay?
Nice.
And so he was able to get out of that situation and get a scholarship to college. Personally, I am a child that is from an under-resourced school system. I'm a graduate of the DC public schools. And I'm going to tell you something shocking here, Nate. When I came out of high school in 1978, my high school in DC, They didn't even have AP courses. Okay. So when I went to that prestigious Ivy League college that you referenced, I didn't even know what an AP course was, right? So it's
You're coming in as a true freshman, like as they like
oh
to
my
say. Like
gosh, yeah,
there's yeah, I know kids that take AP courses in high school, and I mean they're coming into their first year of school, packing up, leaving their parents, moving across the country, moving across the state, and they're already technically sophomores
yeah,
in college because
yeah.
they've taken up AP courses. So I don't know when AP courses started, but I'm very surprised to hear you say that 1978 that just wasn't something that was offered to you because I would have assumed it
Now
would.
I did go through a program where you could take college courses in your senior year of high school. So they called it the High Skip program. And in Cleveland, they have College Credit Plus. So kids that are in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District can go to a local community college and get some college credits. So they're able to kind of make up that gap, right? But a lot of school systems are under resourced, understaffed, and it's tricky. So you come to the table a little behind the eight ball, so to speak. Okay.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna tell you I would be remiss if I didn't take you back in time and speak about the true history of the journey of the underrepresented minority physician. And I need to speak on a watershed moment in history that still haunts us today, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I'm going to use your words earlier. You said the nuts and the bolts. This is really the nuts and the bolts of what I wanted to hear today, and really why I had you on the show because
Yes, sir.
this is a great story. I think it's going to open a lot of eyes. I want people to hear it.
Yes, sir. So I'm second generation African American physician, and I have two older siblings that are docs as well. But when you go back in time, we can go back to the early 1900s, okay? And at that time, there were 155 medical schools, okay? And so the AMA tasked, and actually I say the Carnegie Foundation and the AMA, they tasked Abraham Flexner, who was an educational specialist, to travel to the 155 medical schools in the United States and Canada to evaluate the worthiness of each school in terms of how they're educating students. He published his findings in 1910, and it's referred to as the Wexner Report. Okay.
Okay.
Now, with his findings, he developed some criteria and some standards and ways to improve medical schools, and this forced many institutions to close. Okay, that they just didn't have the resources to implement a more rigorous curriculum, staff, all of the above. So by 1923, they had gone from 155 medical schools to 65 medical schools.
Wow. Darn near cut it in half. Just 'cause they didn't fit the bill. They didn't have the criteria. They didn't check all the boxes.
Correct. And at
Wow.
that time, there were 7 Black medical schools, and 5 of them closed.
Wow. So you're down to two out of 50
You're
some.
down to 2. So Howard University and Meharry were the only 2 medical schools to survive.
Wow.
And if you talk to educators at the medical school level nationwide, they speak of this watershed moment in terms of setting us back, right?
Mhm.
Now, I got to throw more data at you to give you the big picture here.
Hey, I love numbers. Bring it on.
This is awesome. So in 1910, African Americans comprised of 2.5% of US physicians. Okay.
It's a very small number.
Very small number. So then 7 were there. 1923 comes around. They go down to 65 medical schools, 2 HBCU medical schools, and the numbers kept going down. So by 2008, African Americans only made up 2.2% of practicing physicians.
Wow. As
So
of 2008.
2008.
So we've jumped ahead 80 years already from the 1923 kind of, I don't want to say budget cut, but really the school cut down to 65. Now jump
And
ahead
and
to
so
2008, still at 2.
yeah, so keep in mind in 1923 there were 7 HBCU medical schools. Today there's 4, with 2 about to open. Okay. Now, this got the attention of the accreditors, the AAMC, American Association of Medical Colleges. And so there was a concerted effort to recruit, and I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but diversity became part of the accreditation process. Okay. And so we slowly got it up to a point where African Americans make up 5% of practicing physicians, and 7% are Latino. So
Okay.
we've made some great progress.
Yeah,
But
to
as
go from
we move,
2.2, yeah,
yeah.
2.2 up to 5 and 7. Yeah.
Now, I dare to say, and we're going to speak more further as we progress through this podcast, but with the recent Supreme Court decision, there's some educators who believe we're about to enter another watershed moment in time where numbers will go down. Okay.
For sure.
So between 2021 and 2022, the incoming African American medical school population jumped 21%, right?
Mm-hmm.
2,117 to 2,562. 2021 to 2022. We get the Supreme Court ruling in 2023. The question becomes, what will those numbers look like in 2024, 2025? And I'll speak upon how this decision has affected my program here at Cleveland State.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that topic. I want to go back though between the 1923 cutback to the 2008.
Mm-hmm.
You had said you're running right around 2.2% of African American doctors. Is that measured just through the HBC colleges, or is that all medical schools?
That's all medical schools. So
All medical schools.
these numbers are tracked by the American Association of Medical Colleges, AAMC. Okay.
Okay.
So
So
they
just
track
thinking,
the
yeah,
data. Yeah,
yeah.
they
So
track.
just thinking about not necessarily graduation rate, but just occupancy rate of underserved and African American doctors that are in medical school, or folks that are in the medical school. Can they tell how many are in uh, what they would call non-African American schools versus the HBC schools?
Absolutely. There's data out
They're
there
tracking all that.
that will track which schools are producing how many pre-med students from different demographics. Excuse me. And I've seen this data because
Mhm.
my team was recently hired to build out some pathways into other medical schools. So I've seen the data, and so we were able to have conversations with some of these undergraduate institutions that do a fine job of getting minority students through pre-med. So that data is definitely out there. Definitely
Yeah.
out there. Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, for example, like I've heard of Howard University,
Mm-hmm.
HBCU. I mean, it's a great university. I wonder how many students are going through non-HBCU schools to get into medical school, and are they getting the same attention, um, or the same resources that like you're providing at Cleveland State, or at, let's say Howard may have a program similar to yours as well. How many of
Mm-hmm.
these other schools? Let's say I don't even know another one. Uh, Kansas State University. Let's say, like, are they getting the same type of
Well,
resources to do what you're wanting to do?
it's interesting you bring that up because when I was at Brown, I was involved with the Black Pre-Med Society, and that
Mhm.
society had been dormant for a number of years. And so we were able to resuscitate that program and provide support with study groups and old exams and things of that
Mhm.
nature, panel discussions with alumni, things of that nature. So I was an officer in that organization, and here I am once again on a college campus helping kids get through pre-med. I can tell you when I went to that prestigious Ivy League school, it was kind of like, here's a pen, good luck.
Oh man. Simply because of race, or just simply because of the graduation rate, to say, hey, good
Well,
luck
there's
because we
just
haven't had as the success
well,
rate?
let me just explain to you how it works because you
Yeah.
need wraparound support services to make it through, right?
Mhm.
Dedicated student advisors, okay? You need support for the MCAT examination, which is the examination you take to get into medical school, right?
Mhm.
You need support on study techniques for that examination and get through the process, et cetera. So we offer wraparound support services for our students here on campus. And so, it's really a case by case, school by school basis where there's no standard for how much support a student will get, right?
Mhm.
I think the advising role has pretty much expanded nationwide, where a lot of kids do have at least an advisor for their majors, et cetera. But it's really they need more when they come to school and they're so far behind.
Yeah. I mean, I just bring that up because I think when you have an HBCU school and really, I mean, to be transparent, like race is part of what gets you into that school and what allows you to succeed at that school. With the
Mhm.
numbers being at 5% and 7% between, African Americans and Latinos, I kind of want to, not blame's not the right word that comes to mind, but like I kind of want to put some of that ownership on the non-HBCU schools to say, hey, these schools are doing well, but we're still at 5%, 7%. To bring this up, we need some of these bigger schools that, you know, historically aren't built or designed for underserved, African American communities. You guys need to step up a little bit and provide the resources, build the study
Yes.
groups, give all the things, because I feel like that would increase that percentage quite a bit if because that's the majority of the schools, right? I mean, if you think of all
Well,
the medical schools that are there now, that's the
right.
majority is non-HBCU.
And so once again, a lot of it becomes student driven, and then you might have an advisor for that organization.
Yeah,
But if the number of minority students starts to dwindle at some of these schools because of the recent Supreme Court decision, where do we go, right?
mm-hmm.
And I agree that it's got to be a shared responsibility. The HBCUs have a rich tradition and graduating and getting kids into medical school. But predominantly white institutions need to share some of the weight here, for so to speak. Yeah.
For sure. You mentioned earlier, you're talking about some of the underserved communities, even in the grade school, the high school level, they aren't given the same types of resources as other communities around the country are. But why do you think kids in the African American community, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just African American, just in the minority communities around the country, why don't a lot of them grow up to want to be doctors? It's
That's a
it's a
great
you're helping
question.
people. Yeah, you're helping people. You're providing a tremendous value to the community that you're in, and I mean, you're an example of it. And this again, why I wanted to have you on the show. Like you're second generation, you didn't have the best resources growing up, but you got through it, and now you have helped countless number of people throughout your career. Why isn't it that minority communities don't have that same drive or that same passion to get into medical school and do the things that you've been doing?
Well, it's a long, long, difficult journey. If you're first generation college, coming from a low income family, aren't exposed to other role models that are doing healthcare, if you can't see yourself there, if you can't see anyone else marching through that process, yeah, like Dion says, Coach Prime, do you believe? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a difficult thing to get your arms around and see yourself doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the costs are very enormous as well, right? The average kid is coming out with $250,000 worth of debt.
Mm-hmm.
So kids can't see themselves not only getting through the process, but let alone who's going to pay for it, right? So we're doing info sessions for our kids around the National Health uh, Scholarship Corps, which will pay for your tuition fees, books, and give you a stipend through medical school, but you pay back time at a federally qualified health center. So there are resources out there to get through the whole process, but a lot of kids just aren't aware that these opportunities are there, and that's what makes our program so unique. We do have a summer program for 3 weeks where kids are exposed to medicine, nursing, OT, PT, speech therapy, music therapy, public health. science labs, dissection labs, ACT prep, CPR, the list goes on, and they
Hmm.
get a stipend. And so we try to get them at the high school level to see that not only is medicine possible, but all allied fields are possible. And you're welcome.
Yeah, that is great insight. It's such a good answer because that was not where I thought it was going to go, and so that was really good. Because my thought is, and I'll just say Cleveland because obviously you got Cleveland in the background there, such a beautiful city. I just think, is it on these different large communities that that have um, a good amount of underserved communities within them, and have the minority population within them that a lot of kids, let's say Cleveland for example, a lot of kids are going to grow up you know wanting to be LeBron James, right?
Correct.
And so if we can get at a middle school or a high school level, get in there and give them the opportunity to get into school, to get into medical school, or kind of show them that this is a possibility for you and here's all the different things you can do. I mean, you just rambled off a bunch of acronyms. I know what they all mean. Most of our listeners are going to know what they all mean, but like you come into a 10th grader and you're like, hey, you can do OT, PT, you can do all these things. They're gonna be like, what? I like playing basketball. It's like, well, like the likelihood of you making it to the NBA is an even smaller amount of you getting into medical school.
That's
And
why
so,
the Viking Champ Summer Camp is so important. Now, I actually hired a community outreach coordinator,
mhm,
and she's out going to 25 to 30 high schools per month during travel season
it's
with a
awesome.
representative from the enrollment management team talking about everything pathways to practice. And once again, you know, kids don't know what they don't know. Okay.
Hmm.
And they need to understand that these pathways exist, these support systems exist, and you're welcome. Okay. And
Hmm.
that's a big part of it. Okay. And so we're working very diligently not only to go to the Cleveland metropolitan school districts that have STEM high schools, but some of the first and second outer ring schools as well. And so we believe every kid deserves a chance, regardless of what your background is, regardless of what your household income is, regardless of how much education your parents have or not have, regardless if no one else in your family went to college, right?
Hmm.
We want to be here to support you to get through to the process.
That's
Okay.
awesome. Feeling welcome is a big thing, right? I mean, that could deter someone nearly immediately. If they're like, hey, that's going to be uncomfortable and I have to do it for how many years? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not going to feel welcome. That brings you back. You had shared a story with me offline, and so I just want to spend a couple of minutes with this about your father
Yes,
back
ma'am.
in the
Yes.
1960s as a physician,
Mm-hmm.
and how he did not feel welcome and some of the struggles that he went through. And to witness that yourself as a young kid, and then still have the drive to get through medical school, to go to Brown, to go to Tufts, seeing what you saw when you were a kid. Tell me a little bit about your dad back in the 60s and
Yeah,
some of the great work that he did, but also some of the struggles and challenges he faced.
exactly. So my father graduated from Howard Medical School in 1945, and so as I mentioned earlier, only two schools, HBCUs, medical schools existed. And that was Meharry Medical School and Howard University. So my father really was practicing in a time that was fee for service, and you could do well financially, but he chose to practice in one of the most underserved neighborhoods in Washington, D.C. And he was on 18th and D Street Northeast in D.C. Um, you have to understand there was a time back in the 50s where you weren't allowed to even touch a white patient. You weren't allowed to even to get uh, privileges on staff privileges on at hospitals as a black physician. So what you saw happen throughout large metropolitan cities nationally was that these black hospitals popped up, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where they would send their patients. And so they had to develop a network among themselves and refer patients to themselves, and that's basically how they survived. And so I always think about them and think about the time I spent going on house calls with him in some very tough neighborhoods and or going on rounds with him in the hospital. So that certainly influenced me to consider medical school. I lost my father second semester sophomore year at Brown University, and I took some time to write about my father and honor my father as part of my essay for medical school. And
Wow.
I spoke about the experiential learning opportunities I had with my own father in terms of going on house calls and rounds and things like that with him. So he influenced quite a few of us, Nate, because I do have two other siblings who are doctors, and they
Mhm.
both graduated from Howard Medical School as well.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. And that's sorry for the loss of your father. I'm in that same boat too. My dad actually passed away 3 weeks before I graduated
Yeah.
at Buena University. So it was one of those things. You taking some time to sit down and write about your dad and reflect and do some of that. I mean, as I heard that, my first thought in my head was like, man, I never did that. I
Mhm.
didn't take that time to just sit down and say, okay, how did he impact me? My dad was a State Farm insurance agent for pretty much my whole life, kind of a pillar in our small community. Everybody knew him, and so I saw the outreach, after he passed away. But to actually reflect back on, yeah, what he meant to me and how he influenced what I'm doing today is a big takeaway. I know that wasn't the point of your story,
Mhm.
but I want to thank you for kind of putting that thought in my head. So
Sure.
I appreciate
Sure.
that. But your siblings, where are they physicians at today?
So my brother is in private practice outside of DC as an oncologist,
Okay.
and my sister is a neonatologist in New York City. So both Howard grads for medical school, and very very much still practicing and pushing the rock up the hill, so to speak. Yeah,
Love that. The McKnight, well, your sister's probably not a McKnight anymore, but
yeah,
um,
yeah. She's married, correct? Yeah,
yeah. But the McKnights, they're pushing through. I'm surprised you didn't stick out on the East Coast and
still expensive. My God,
yeah, good point. Got to keep it in the Midwest. So
I live like a
um,
king here in the Midwest, sir.
there you go. Well, I want to talk about the big thing that we wanted to cover today. What you were talking to students about earlier today
Hmm.
is the recent Supreme Court ruling that's
Hmm.
really going to have an impact on everything that we've been talking about, right, over the last 20-25 minutes and getting into medical school and the challenges that underrepresented or underserved minority students face. How does this Supreme Court ruling? I want you to share a little bit about what it is, and then
Hmm.
what challenges it's going to further present in the coming years.
Well, during in June of this year, the Supreme Court took on a case from the Students for Fair Admissions. I believe it was UNC and Harvard that were kind of part of this class action suit, and it was a 6-3 vote to basically strike down affirmative action. And so, what that effectively means is race-based policies cannot be in the forefront of your admission decisions. And so uh, ever since that ruling, people in academia and specifically in the enrollment management have been really nervous about what this really means in real life and real time. We did receive some guidance in mid-August from DOJ and DOE as it relates to what's fair game, what's permissible. And here's a quick summary of that guidance. So you can use race as it relates to a student's life experience. So if a kid is first generation college and he can write on his essay what that means to him and as it relates to his family and his race and all that's okay.
Mhm.
If you're a kid who went to an under-resourced school district and you had to struggle and really show your grit and grind to get through attending that type of school, you can write about that. If you're a student who let's say you're a minority student and you went to a very elite private school and you experience racism, you can lean into that life experience and write about that with your essay. What I found most interesting about the ruling was certain things are still permissible. So what I mean by that is targeted marketing, targeted recruitment, and pathways are still permissible. Okay.
Okay.
You just have to take a more holistic approach when you evaluate student and who that person is as a student. And we've always taken that approach with the Pathways to Practice program here at Cleveland State. So our criteria are you interested in primary care? Do you want to serve the underserved and learn more about urban health? And certain criteria we've always had used over the last 11 years and still exist today are things like first generation college, low income family, under-resourced school district, a graduate of the foster care system, a veteran, okay, from the state of Ohio, the non-traditional student who just hasn't gotten the break that others have gotten. These are the kind of kids we're trying to motivate and uplift. But the decision has made admission folks really, really nervous. The number of slots that I have to send kids to the medical school have been cut.
Mm-hmm.
And to be frank, I think a lot of schools are still trying to figure out how they can stay within the parameters of the law.
Hey everyone, I wanted to take a moment to talk about what I do outside of being the host of the Doctors and Dollars podcast. I'm the CFO of Grand Vision Capital Group. At Grand Vision, we work with high-income earners who make a great living but still can't quite break through that true wealth ceiling. We utilize strategically chosen investments tailored for high-income earners. The question always at the forefront of our minds is, why wait for retirement to finally live when you can implement an investment strategy that will impact your life today? To be honest, most of the people we work with never even knew these options existed because their financial planner doesn't have access to these exclusive investments. So, if you're ready to finally turn your high income into real wealth, visit our website, www.grandvision.co, and hit the Take Action button in the top right corner to schedule some time with me. Or even better, connect, follow me on any of my social media accounts, shoot me a message. Now, back to the show. Yeah. So if I'm understanding it correctly, it's a lot of what's still permissible is you're really looking at each student for who they are, what their background is. It's the who they are, not necessarily what they are. Like
Correct.
this is okay. So it's hey, this is a great person who's been in an underserved community, could be a veteran. There's a lot of different parameters that you mentioned that I think are still great, and those things should be looked at as someone's trying to get into school. But now they've taken away, like, you can't just look at what they are, right? The affirmative action piece
I'll take it one step further.
Okay. Yeah.
We were advised by general counsel to take certain verbiage off our website and our marketing material. Mm-hmm. So the mission of our program always has been to go after underrepresented minority students. And so we no longer can use underrepresented minority on our website. Mm-hmm. We took it off. We no longer have URM or underrepresented minority on our marketing material. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we're trying, certainly at our best effort, not to have a race-based policy for admission, so to speak. Okay.
Yeah. You've taken off the what they are.
Yep.
And now your marketing can be, who are you? Like, tell us, in your essay, who you may have experienced. Like, the what you are may be still part of you, but we want to know who you are.
Yes, sir. So it's awesome. Rather interesting. It's rather interesting. So I'll be frank with you, Nate. It's really just strengthened my resolve. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. So right now we have an early assurance pathway to Northeast Ohio Medical University. And what early assurance does is, if you hit 2 academic metrics, meaning your GPA and your MCAT score, your place in medical school is reserved for you. So we have a pathway to that medical school and have for the last 11 to 12 years. We just recently entered into a formal agreement with the proposed University of of I'll just say Maryland College of Osteopathic Medicine at Morgan State. It's a mouthful.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
and Morgan State is an HBCU in Baltimore. So they'll be opening up in 2025. So we
Okay,
will have a pathway into Morgan State for our students. And I can't tell you how pleased I am, how excited I am to have our first HBCU underneath our umbrella of schools. It's very, very important, especially as we try to attract more students from different backgrounds that may find an HBCU attractive.
for sure. And don't
Yeah,
worry, Tim. I'm sure that they'll take all that beginning part and turn it into an acronym. So it'll just be an
they will.
acronym at Morgan State.
Yeah, it's MDCOM at Morgan State
Oh
University.
my goodness. Yeah.
Well, the Maryland College of Medicine, College of Osteopathic Medicine, blah blah. Anyway, it takes time to carve out these agreements, and we're still speaking with other medical schools. But when I'm all said and done, I want to have multiple medical schools in which our students can choose from, and we'll help get them there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you then? One, creating an HBCU under your guys' program, but to have it in the Baltimore area, a very well-known underserved
Mhm.
community, which is also right next to DC, where you
Yes.
grew up. So tell me about how that makes you feel.
Well, I tell people this job is personal, right? And
Hmm.
and so being second generation African American, and also a native Washingtonian. So when I first spoke with the provost there, I pushed really hard to make this happen. So um, they've got a very, very strong leadership team there. They're going to open up in July of 2025, and our missions are the same. They're trying to serve the underserved in Baltimore, and having that alignment of mission is very, very important to me. So um, you know, it's the only way I can organically grow the program. Okay,
Yeah.
because as I said, established medical schools are already getting 5 to 7,000 students applying to the school per year.
Mhm.
So I'm getting at the ground floor level, okay, with schools that are just opening up.
For sure. And in those, 5 to 7,000 applicants, you had said earlier, 100 to 200, right,
Mhm.
are getting in. Does this allow you, as this starts in July of 2025, to say, hey, we do have room for 100 to 200, and you can get in, right? If you're in the breakthrough start of this, you're getting in. And what a driver for immediate growth, right? And for an attraction power to say, we're getting started, until this thing builds up to we're getting 5,000 applicants, every year. We have an opportunity to give you a great career and to
Yeah,
help you serve people.
absolutely. So I'm going to tell you, I've got a Neil Med, Morgan State, two Caribbean schools,
Mm,
all underneath our umbrella already, and I'm going to add another school soon. So it's a lot of work. It's been a labor of love. I've only been at it for 2 years,
hmm.
and kids graduate from our program with a certificate in urban health. And woven within that urban health certificate is that experiential learning opportunity where they do job shadowing at federally qualified health centers and physician mentoring at the Cleveland Clinic and the Metro Health System. So the kids are really getting a good opportunity as they march through our program.
That's awesome. I really like what you snuck it in there quick, but you said two Caribbean programs. As you're
Mhm.
getting closer to retirement, is that just a play on, hey, as I get retired, I'm gonna sneak down to these Caribbean schools, take the wife with me, and
Let me tell you something. There's like 60 Caribbean medical schools, but there's
I would
four
not
of
have known
them.
that.
Yeah, there's four of them that are very, very reputable.
Mhm.
And in fact, they call them the Big Four. Okay.
Okay.
So we have two of the Big Four signed up, that being the American University of the Caribbean and Ross University. So by having that agreement in place, our kids are guaranteed an interview down there.
Hmm.
Okay.
What country in the Caribbean are these universities a part of?
Oh gosh, I should know that, but my program manager was the one that went down there.
Oh, how convenient of them.
Yeah, yeah, she went down there. I'm having a blank here,
That's okay. I'll
but
Google it later. I'll put it in the description for the show.
yeah.
People
So
want to check it out. Yeah.
it's amazing. So we're happy to have them on board, and it's part of my job as being executive director, pretty much giving a sense for which way to grow the program. And so I'm blessed to be sitting in this chair and able to carry on some very good work.
That's awesome. And so is everything that we've been talking about, is that under the Pathways to Practice organization that you're spending a lot of your time as being a part of?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
And
Tell me a little
so
bit about Pathways to Practice. I mean, has everything we've been saying that's, when we say Pathways to Practice as an organization, this is what you guys are doing.
yes, sir. We help kids get into medical school. We're located in Cleveland, Ohio, at Cleveland State University, and we're carving out different pathways to medical school. May that be for an undergraduate student or for a post-baccalaureate student. So, what makes us unique is that there are other programs that are post-baccalaureate programs that will do some GPA repair to get you there, but they're not necessarily tied to a medical school at the end of the rainbow. So
Mhm.
we are going to be tied to various medical schools to get you there. So we're very unique in that standpoint, but also knowing that we have the proper guidance before us um, by the Department of Justice and Department of Education. We know that pathways are permissible. So it's there was a time when I was kind of worried, will I still have a job because of the Supreme
Sure.
Court decision? But in spite of losing a few slots to NeoMed, we're going to gain some other slots at other schools, and we'll move forward.
Gotcha. The true pathway for success in any occupation is adaptation. So the fact that you guys can adapt and this ruling gets thrown at you for a brief minute, you kind of worry of like what's the future hold, but because you guys are able to adapt, I mean, you guys have a lot of stuff coming up here in these next few years, just from what you shared with us. That's really exciting. So, I mean, Supreme Court ruling or not, you guys are growing and you're creating a lot of change in the communities that you guys are serving, and I think that's fantastic.
And I was very strategic with my staff, and so I've got a staff member that teaches the urban health courses,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got a student success advisor. I've got a community outreach coordinator. I've got a program manager that pretty much pulls all the operational levers for us, and we'll be hiring more staff as well. So it's really a great group of people that are committed to helping underrepresented minority students or those who just want to help the underserved get to medical school. So
Mm-hmm.
we're very holistic in our approach, and I've had opportunities and been recruited by the private sector to go back, and I've turned them down, and I'm going to keep marching forward, sir.
That's awesome. Good for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Well, as we near the end of the show, it is the Doctors and Dollars podcast. So I do want to talk a little bit of finance with you.
yes, sir.
You're turning down private sector offering. You're dedicating the later part of your career uh, before you and your wife do hang your hat and decide to retire and enjoy that next chapter of life. But you had shared with me before, you and your wife have a lot of revenue streams that you guys have built up. You're planning for retirement. What you're doing with Pathways to Practice is part of that. You have other sources and other revenue streams that are going on, but specifically just because of what we do at Grand Vision Capital as far as real estate, long-term real estate investing, as
Mhm.
a guaranteed income source, you have built some guaranteed income sources within your retirement plan. Don't
Mhm.
have to talk any numbers, but I just want to talk about the actual tools. Everyone in retirement has a toolbox, right, of different income sources. Let's talk about a couple of the tools that are important to you and your wife as you guys head into retirement, specifically pension
Mhm.
and Social Security.
Mhm.
So tell me, as someone who's getting closer to that point of retirement, how
Mhm.
is the pension and the Social Security important to you and your wife and that retirement plan?
Well, it's a tremendously important, and my wife is a vice president at one of the largest community colleges here in Northeast Ohio and the state, actually, and she's been there for over 20 years. So she'll have not only the pension, but she'll have Social Security from when she was in the private sector, but also a very sizable traditional IRA. Okay.
Hmm.
So my wife will have those revenue streams, which is going to be probably six figures. Okay.
Hmm.
And me having this current position allows me to be in the state pension plan as well.
Hmm.
But my wife and I have a very smart broker, and so I have IRAs, I'll have Social Security, I have an annuity, and my plan is really when I get to about 70, and don't tell anyone, okay? I may leave this job around that time, but that's 7 years, so don't tell anyone. But
Okay.
but I'll probably just do telehealth part time, and that's something I do currently now, but I'll probably do it about 15 to 20 hours a week just because I enjoy it. So
Yeah.
the plan has always been to go full time and then part time, have multiple streams of income, and pull those levers at different times, right?
Hmm. Absolutely.
So I can delay Social Security until I'm 70.
Hmm.
I can delay my IRAs until I'm 73. And the most important thing moving forward, actually, Nate, is keeping my health going, and and we talked about that in offline about my
Hmm.
vertical climber and staying busy and working out
That's
and all
right.
that stuff. So yeah, yeah.
That's right. I mean, you made it very known you're on the vertical climber 100 times more than I am. So,
That's it for me, man. I burned 400 calories in a half an hour. So yeah,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
let's wrap up. Let's group some of that together. So I think it's great that you shared, what you and your wife have going on. As you guys, again, you're it sounds like 63, gonna keep riding the boat until you're 70, and then you're off into the sunset, right? And so
Mhm.
I think that's great that you guys have done that together. Where my mind goes then is kind of circling the wagon and coming back to what we've been talking about for most of the show is the education, not just medical school, for some of these underserved students, but is there the idea within, pathways to practice within Cleveland State University and your position there to maybe start giving some guidance on retirement planning, how teaching young doctors how to save, and some of the, putting some of those tools into their toolbox, so that when they do get to their point in the career that you're at, they have the levers to pull. They can understand how taxes work, because we don't have a crystal ball. We have no idea what taxes are going to be in 7 years when you decide to hang it up, or in, let's call it 20, 25 years when I decide to hang it up. We have no idea what taxes look like. And so do you foresee, whether it's just a single course, whether it be part of the curriculum, that there's some of that retirement and education planning there for young doctors?
Well, financial literacy is huge,
Hmm.
and so I've had conversations with other medical schools about doing an info session on basically how to finance medical school, because as I said, it's
Hmm.
a 200 to $250,000 venture, right? And so we're going to be having a info session from the National Health Service Corps folks out of DC talking about what that scholarship means, and in terms of securing your future, coming out of medical school with very little debt, and getting education paid for, meaning your tuition, books, fees, and getting a monthly stipend as you make it through that medical school journey. So that's part of it, and part two of that will probably be for the armed forces people to come in and speak about their scholarship programs as well.
Hmm.
But I try to reassure kids and do the math for them, right?
Hmm.
So I say, let's say you get $250,000 worth of debt, right? Let's say you go do a family practice residency. Kids coming out just today are making $250,000.
Hmm.
You multiply that over 25, 30 years. That debt doesn't look so bad, right?
Not at all. No. Yeah, exactly.
And so that's the conversation I have with kids in high school right now, right?
Hmm.
Because they see that 250 and go, oh my God, whatever. But I reassure them that as a practicing physician, you'll not only have a unique position in life to treat people at their toughest time, but make a difference in the community of your choice. But you're never ever going to be in a position where a bank's going to go, no, I'm not going to give you a loan, right?
Hmm.
And that's just not going to happen, right?
For sure. Yeah.
You'll get a mortgage, you'll get the car you want, what have you. So we try to alleviate those fears at the high school level. And the kids want to know, how much do you make? They're all about how much do you make,
For
right?
sure.
And so we talk about nursing and occupational therapy, speech therapy, and all that. They want to know what the market looks like. They want to know how much schooling do you have to have. They want to know, what do you make when you start work. And so I have my colleagues come in from the Cleveland Clinic and talk about, a pathology assistant or a respiratory therapist or a cardiac tech, what that job market looks like, right?
Hmm.
Because I realized the road to medical school is a long road, and a lot of
Hmm.
kids really have a tough time with delayed gratification.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the generation these days. Yeah, the instant gratification is needed, and if you throw a number like $250,000 of debt at them, they don't see the gratification of what their career can mean to them, the income they can make, the impact that they're going to have on their patients and their community. If they can't see that right away, they look at that 250 and they're like, nope,
Nope,
I'll go do
can't
something
do it.
else. Yeah.
Well, imagine where I was. I mean, I was a sophomore in college and I lost my father. So it was like, well, who's going to pay for college, let alone medical school? How am I going to get past this? Right.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I had the same thoughts in my head. And so I understand the landmines. I understand the setbacks. I understand the grit it takes to get through the process. And I
Hmm.
tell the kids, you come here and I'll help develop your grit and get you through. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. McKnight, for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. This has been a fantastic conversation. I hope that this episode has a tremendous impact on the underserved and the other underrepresented communities out there. We're leveraging pathways to practice to get more students into medical school that otherwise, might not have. So I appreciate you taking some time out of your day and here in the middle of the week to talk with us.
Pleasure to be here, sir. And we're really just hitting the tip of the iceberg with what's to come, so to speak. So I'll continue to build out the staff and agreements with different medical schools, but my job is really to get to a point where I'm sending 100 kids a year to medical school. So
That would be amazing. Well, thank
yeah,
you
that.
again. Yeah, thank you again, and we appreciate you being here. Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, everyone. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to talk about the second opinion. As most of our listeners are physicians, you guys know the importance of having another medical professional's insight for a patient's treatment plan. But have you ever considered having a second opinion on your financial plan? Or have you simply trusted your financial advisor that they've already leveraged every strategy that your family needs to be 100% on track to meet your financial goals? That's why, for my Doctors and Dollars listeners, each Wednesday I block off 3 time slots, an hour each, to provide a free second opinion of their financial plan. During this hour, we'll reevaluate your financial goals and your risk tolerance. We'll ensure tax mitigation strategies are in place and ultimately give you confidence with your financial outlook, because that is what drives a happy home, a happy marriage, and peace of mind. These 3 spots each Wednesday do fill up fast. Send me an email at nate@grandvision.co or head over to www.grandvision.co/second opinion to fill out a quick form about you and schedule a time for us to meet. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope the rest of your week is abundant. Cheers.